Hi, my name is Jochem, and this is the Service Design Show, episode 218.
I'm sure you can't have missed all the news around journey management lately, right? But how much of it is true and how much of it is hype? Well, today we are going to explore how it has evolved, where it's heading, and whether or not it's living up to the expectations. Hi, if you're new here, welcome to the Service Design Show, where we invite the brightest minds in our field and explore what's needed to design great services that resonate with people, push businesses forward, and honor our planet. Happy 2025. We are starting the year with a bang. I'm excited to welcome back a very good friend of the show, Jochem van der Veer. You might remember him from our chat back in 2023. As a quick reminder, Jochem is the co-founder and CEO of TheyDo, a company that's shaking things up in the journey management world. But Jochem wasn't always a CEO. He actually started out as a designer, which I think gives him an edge on how to create truly user-centric experiences. And here's something you might not know about Jochem. He is a dedicated yoga enthusiast who's been practicing it for over a decade. What I feel sets Jochem apart is his deep understanding of and practical experience with journey management. With TheyDo being one of the most innovative companies in the space, helping organizations of all sizes solve tough strategic business challenges. That's why if we want an honest inside look into journey management, I really can't think of a better person to talk to than Jochem. So in today's conversation, we are going to learn about the real impact of journey management and if it's living up to the hype. How journey management has evolved over the past few years and what has changed. The mistakes companies have made with journey management and what we can learn from them. We'll also talk about practical tips for scaling journey management across your organization. We'll get Jochem's predictions for the future of journey management and what's on the horizon, and how AI is influencing the field and what that means for the future. Finally, some honest insights from Jochem's experience as the CEO of TheyDo. Now, one thing that really caught my attention in this chat with Jochem was his take on where journey management is actually making a difference. He shared some surprising examples of companies who are truly embracing this mindset and seeing real results. It's not always who you expect. Okay, it's time to get this show on the road. I hope you're curious to hear what Jochem has to say, and make sure you listen all the way through for my key takeaways at the end. I am your host, Mark Fontijn, and you are listening to the Service Design Show. Welcome back to the show, Jochem, and a very happy new year.
Good to see you, Mark. Happy New Year, and I'm excited to be here again.
It's been almost to the date, 2 years ago, since our first conversation on the Service Design Show went public. This means that we're celebrating our third year of the partnership, which is amazing.
Wow, congratulations. Time flies, right?
2 years ago, 2023, we were still in, COVID was sort of on the end tail thing, right? By then.
Back burner. Yeah, no, it's a big blur in my mind.
Oh, man. So we're going to do a new episode. We're, of course, going to look back on the last 2 years. We're going to look forward to 2025. We'll review some of the topics that we addressed in that episode. I was re-listening to it, and here are some key phrases or key words that we used. Let's see which ones still resonate with you. We talked about journey excellence. We talked about customer experience governance. We talked about the journey management stack. And we talked about the journey management index and quite a few other things. So episode 167, if anyone is interested. Do those topics still ring a bell, Jochem?
Yes, and funny how these terminologies stay the same and also evolve. The journey excellence piece is still very relevant. Governance is the number one topic in a large company, how to do this well. The journey management index was, I think, our pet peeve that we petted, like who's doing well, who's not doing well. It's cool to see that companies are actually asking like, hey, how do we benchmark this or that journey? So a lot of these topics still resonate. I think where we are compared to where we were, there was a lot of methodology, a lot of philosophy, and now we're seeing way more companies practicing this. So what we are seeing is the shift towards practical application, business impact, and that is
Don't give everything away. Don't give everything away, Jochem. We still have a
I'm
whole.
not giving anything away.
We still have a whole.
We can
episode.
Talk about this for hours. We
well,
can talk about this for
let's
hours.
see how far we get. Yes, when we spoke 2 years ago, journey management was definitely on the rise. It was picking up momentum. I'm very interested. If you look back, what would you say are some of the key shifts that have happened since?
So the one thing that comes to mind, I mean, do you want to know it from our business perspective, or more like from a market perspective, where companies are going, or more from where we are as a company?
That's both interesting. Let's start with the market and then maybe later talk about TheyDo.
So market, I mean, no one has a line item on his budget for journey management. I mean, some companies have it today, but still very few have that. What they have is business problems. They have huge costs that they want to get down. They are opening up new markets and they want to extend their product lines. They want to cross-sell their different capabilities or services to other parts of the consumers or the customers they're serving. So they have a lot of business problems, and nothing is new there. But bringing certain pieces of data together to have faster decisions, to have decision support, and to prioritize better, that is a business problem that journey management, good journey management, solves really, really well. And I think where 2 years ago we were deep on methodology and making sure that everyone understood this, today we're way more pragmatic and say, look, here's how all your data should come together to solve this business problem you have. And I think that resonates really well, and that the methodology then happens to be journey management versus data governance or journey governance, or having the right teams in place to actually execute on this, basically redesigning the organization. It's less relevant. It becomes about solving business problems through the lens of your customer, which is a fantastic thing to do. So it's a big shift that we're seeing in the market.
I was again going back to our conversation, listening to this, and let me know if you recognize or feel the same. But what I felt is that organizations are getting better at recognizing that they have a customer experience issue, and also starting to recognize that there is a solution out there. So this is like the classical problem aware, solution aware phases. Like if your faucet is leaking in your house and you don't know that plumbers exist, it's really hard to connect those two, right? And I feel that shift is now happening, where organizations are approaching this not from we need journey management, like you said, but hey, we need to reduce churn. And then sort of more and more people within those organizations are starting to connect that to, okay, we need to call the plumber, but the plumber in this case isn't the plumber. It's working journey-led / journey-centric, right? Do you see something similar?
Yes. And I think the companies that realize this also realize the problems are still the same. They want to be customer-centric, but what is limiting them to actually be able to do this is that because there are no good practices, tools, data alignment, or rituals in their companies to do so, the reality is they do nothing. I was talking to big telco the other day. Churn problem. I mean, most telcos have a churn problem or have a huge churn. I mean, sometimes in the billions. It's common, but they also have a lot of revenue coming in on net new, so that overcomes it. But to reduce churn, they said, look, we can focus on network quality by building better coverage, but we can't get the rest of the organization to align on what is the most important thing to find anywhere else, right? It's not a hardware problem. It's also a communication problem. It's also understanding where people are in their journey with us to be upfront on, hey, you are entering a zone of bad network coverage, or where you live, like, we are maybe not the best solution for you. So all those things they are aware of, they have insights, but because they don't have the different teams able to decide on what to do, nothing happens, which is crazy. And that's where they start to look for customer-centric practices, like where the customer journey comes in hand to solve for that. So I think that is a shift that you're seeing, where customer experience is typically seen as an add-on for support, or something as a nice to have, becomes mission critical to solve those business problems. And that is a big shift.
What's driving that shift?
Well, we tried a lot of things that didn't work. So now we're
that's
looking
that's called
at something that
prototyping.
does work. Yes. Yeah. So, but there's also a lot of success cases, right? By building better customer experiences, the business is actually impacted positively. There's way more knowledge that has been shared publicly, not just by us or our customers, but in general. Customer-centric practices that are moving the needle are becoming the norm, and it's very clear that they are having a ton of benefits. So it's also not, how would you say, unacceptable to look into these tools
What do you
to
mean?
help decision making. Unacceptable to look into the realm of customer experience to start solving the business problems. And I think that is also now becoming more acceptable in the management teams, the leadership teams of these companies. Like, it is a holistic approach to doing business. We can't just optimize one thing here or focus on the KPI there. We have to look at the entire customer experience and align the different teams with that, which is a common accepted pattern, more so than it was a few years back.
And that is, like you said, because we are seeing examples of organizations who are able to execute on it, and that gives confidence for the rest to follow.
Yes, and the technologies are also getting better. We're getting better at listening. We're getting better at data collection. We're getting better at data labeling. We're getting better at understanding what relates to what. We're getting better at everything that helps us to actually do this, right? You used to have like so many silos, so many data silos and team silos in organizations that it wasn't really practical. Maybe like strategically it was an interesting idea, but in practice it was almost impossible to pull off. And today it's way easier, also propelled by AI doing the heavy lifting for you on many of these hidden pattern recognition, connecting the dots across your data, that it becomes easier for teams to actually realize this.
So you mentioned that that's the shift in the market. You, as a company, I'm sure, are also evolving with this trend. What's changed for TheyDo compared to 2 years ago?
So we're designers. We're coming from customer-centric practices, and we came into the world with a product that is covering the triple diamond, right? Problem discovery, solution delivery. Compartmentalize that with building blocks, insights, personas, metrics, journeys, solutions, opportunities, making sure that everything is aligned with your goals. And that methodology, every company has a version of that, or multiple versions of that. But connecting the dots, what it means for your team, what it means for my team is different. Where the data is coming from is different. How to connect that is different. So it's a new design problem that we're tackling, where methodology is one thing and enabling people with that workflow is another. But actually doing this at scale and bringing in all the relevant pieces of the data that you already use, the tools you already work with, bringing that in this context and ingesting that, linking it to those journeys, that is actually what our customers are asking from us to do. But it's a really, really hard problem because there's so many different sources, so many different dependencies, so many different access rights in a big company that have made it hard for people to even get clearance on, one, accessing certain parts of the data, two, being able to work with that data, three, being able to integrate that data. And then the next layer is, are we allowing people to actually see all of that data? And if you're an intern, all the way to the CEO, like, who has different rights to see what we can see? And you would be amazed how many Chinese walls within companies there actually are that we sometimes can't bash through. while the journey is still horizontally going through all these different departments. So that's a new design challenge that we're solving and uncovering by starting with the original idea of TheyDo.
Interesting. So take us deeper into this journey. Like, what's a thing or what's a design challenge that you faced in the recent months that you never expected that you would face as a
Ooh,
person, as a company?
the data model of understanding, let's say you break down your customer life cycle where you had like typical like I'm unaware, I'm problem aware, so that is a typical life cycle that we see. Or I'm not a customer, I become a customer, I am a customer, I use the service, and so on. So let's say you break down that complicated life cycle into more granular journeys, and we typically refer to them as L0, L1, L2 journeys. Some people use macro, micro journeys. Like that journey hierarchy of making that granularity deeper and deeper and more specific results in a very interesting data model that is typically between 3 to 4 layers deep. And then all these journeys, all these customer journeys, you could argue, are based on the thousands of interactions people have with your brand. So there's even one more layer that is individual customer journeys below that. So that model bubbling up what Mark Fontaine experienced today into people like Mark, the persona like Mark, into journeys, into macro journeys, into understanding what happens in the purchase stage of the customer lifecycle that is relevant for 5 different teams. As you can imagine, becomes really, really difficult to manage.
Wait, hold on. What makes it so difficult to manage?
Because there's a lot of smaller journeys across different teams, all different metrics, all different customer insights flowing in from different parts of surveys, research trajectories, support logs, different teams. So one is setting up the model to make sure that all of that is actually mapped consistently and bubbling up to give you the right insights and the right opportunities. But the second thing is, and that's what surprised me most, even at the scale we are already, like the performance of that model starts to break down.
And
Like we have
performance
some
as in speed or
speed, yes,
yeah.
and speed is everything. Like if you build a modern SaaS application for enterprise, like performance is key. And it surprised me how fast it went down. And it's really cool to see our team is picking it up, and we have a lot of performance issues resolved. And our score, we have an application index score that measures all the different nuances of it, is going back up again. But it surprised me that at some point it really starts to break down for the largest companies that have huge data sets. And that model that is simple to use if it works also becomes slow because there's so much data going through it that is visible and using different components. So it's not just a database model, but it's really like a visible journey model that starts to break down. So that is one surprising thing that we solve for.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I'm seeing like visualizing it as a journey as one way. You have other ways of visualizing the data in TheyDo. One of the ways I can imagine would also be super interesting is like a knowledge graph, like interconnect, like a web of knowledge, and then like it just explodes. It grows exponentially when you start adding connections. We all know how quickly networks grow. So yeah, makes total sense. Jochem, so these are some things that you've seen change, shift, evolve over the last years. What do you feel remain the same? So what are some of the cornerstones within journey management?
Well, we're still serving people. So even in a large company,
Even with
we're
AI?
deeply even with AI. No, especially with AI. Let's unpack that for a bit later. But even with AI, like in companies, I mean, service designers, everyone listening to this, like the service designers I speak to, the customer experience professionals, the researchers, like we still are deeply, deeply interested in our customers, in the people we seek to serve, right? And not our customers, in the people that we want to be our customers. So there's no shortage of interest into what makes people tick. What are the jobs they're trying to do, and how can we help them? And the market is changing, the world is changing, so the needs are changing, and our different aspects of the business are changing. So that will never stop. That is the same. It's the same as it was 10 years ago. It's the same as it was the moment I started as a designer in my first job I ever had. And that is still the same. So we have better tools, we have more data, we can do better pattern matching, we can free up people to do more of these deep inquiries. Fantastic. But that's still the same. We want to do great services, we want to do great products that people love to use and are willing to pay for. Or if you're a government agency, actually like make it easy for them to be a citizen. There's many of these nuances, but that has still stayed the same. There's no shortage of deep inquiry needs of understanding people.
Fortunately. And it's great that hopefully it's going to free up more of our resources to actually focus on that aspect, because that's in the end where I think the value lies. The rest should be done as much in an automated way as possible, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And that's also a hilarious thing that I'm seeing now is like the polarity you would see. Like we shipped something called Journey AI, where basically research documents be turned into really good quality journey maps.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your journey mapped out, you have your insights is linked to your personas, and we start to bubble up opportunities. It's scary how good it is. But it also put people into thinking like, but hang on a minute, the process of understanding what I actually researched and mapping that out is very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And so on one way you could say like, yes, everything can be automated. So you can do this mass journey production at scale, but then you lose the process. But what is interesting to me is that at first that sounds like it, but then you start to use it and you realize, okay, well, I can do this for all my data. And then I can actually be smart about what are the things that I'm really deep diving on. And I think that is the other thing that is still the same. We know what is going wrong with the business. We know exactly what metric is down. We know exactly what we want to focus on, but we didn't really know why it's happening. So we need to do these deep research trajectories or explorations or studies to figure that out. And now AI is actually helping us to do it at scale and give us way more focus on the next level of why. It's like, okay, first look here, and then you can go deeper. So it's actually opening up the right alleys, because that is the most exciting part for me, where people now see, hey, now we know actually everything there is to know based on what we already know. And instead of focusing on the wrong thing, researching the thing that we already have evidence for, or some other team was busy with, or it was the wrong place to start in the first place, we can start at the right place. And I think that is pretty exciting.
And when you say we can start at the right place, what do you mean?
So this started from the notion of, hey, do we even need journey mapping if everything can be automated? You only need to interview your customers, pull in your surveys, pull in your whatever data source you have for this specific thing that you're caring to uncover. And with AI, we can uncover all the patterns. We can uncover all the journeys. We can understand exactly what's going on. But what it also does, it says, here's where we don't have the knowledge, or here's what we do know. But as a designer, as a researcher, I'm actually not accepting this. It's not enough. It's good. I understand better now why the data is the way it is. But we're not yet at the root cause level. So now let me deep dive there. And I think that is a fantastic approach that we can speed up, so that the people doing this work can actually focus on the right points in the customer experience and not have to do all the work to uncover, 80% of fluff and then zoom in on the 20%. And that can be sped up. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. And it's going to get even, like you said, it's already very scary how good it is. Imagine where we'll be in 2 years' time. I'm really curious, Jochem. I'm sure your own vision on journey management has also evolved, changed, it's been updated. Could you take us through sort of your thinking process of how do you see journey management today, and how is that influencing where TheyDo is going?
So maybe we should start with what we started with, right? Customer journey mapping is still a fantastic tool to get everything in one place. Your metrics, customer insights, your research, your personas, maybe some direction of where to look for opportunities. Like that practice the journey mapping practice is still, in my mind, the cornerstone of how I see a small project all the way up to a big company getting together around what really matters. So that is the original thought that started TheyDo. Is like, why can't we do this at scale? Why can't we put all the integrations to work so that the data is automatically ingesting in there? But what happens with that brings us to today is that you shift from, okay, journey mining, getting all your insights and mining them to reveal the journeys and getting that in place, which is that the AI that we just talked about, to actually understanding where to focus on. So that's now we focus on these opportunities for impacting the business, for removing certain frictions in the journey that leads to less call center volume, that leads to less people needed, that leads to a reduction in cost. Okay, fantastic. We can do that. But now we have the journey, and then what? So we're shifting from, okay, now we have mapped it out, and now we can start monitoring this journey. Are there new insights coming in? Are there new data points coming in that give us an indication that we should go back to this journey? Which is a very interesting idea, because I don't know if you remember, but one of our first t-shirts said mapping is never the end game. And it isn't, because it's the start. You need to get everything on the same page, which is the journey, to understand what to do. And we first took a step at saying, like, you want to do this at scale, because one journey doesn't make a company. Typically, you have a few hundred journeys that make up the customer experience in a large company. To understand the full nuances of what customers experience when using or not using your products or services. So getting there is one thing, but once you're there, then what? Well, then you start to build on that. And that is where we are going, and where I'm thinking the vision for journey management should go. It becomes your brain of your company, the tapped into the literally walking into your customer's shoes. You can do that. Oh, what are people experiencing when buying our product for the first time? Oh, here's where the journeys are, what they are experiencing step by step, where they have frustration, where there are opportunities we are already working on. And maybe that is enough. And maybe it isn't, because there are gaps, and then we need to do more inquiry, get more data, or understand customers differently. But that is a very interesting step up, where we say, hey, look, once your journey model, your journey framework is established, what are the things we can build on top of that? How can we start steering the business with it?
When you share this, I'm seeing the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, sitting there, and the tool they use to make decisions are spreadsheets, Google Sheets, Excel, and that's their like go-to tool. And they need the data inside the tool in order to actually move the company towards the strategy and vision they have outlined. Google Sheets has an owner, has a very specific user who has a problem they need to solve, and spreadsheets are the tool to solve that. What are you seeing? Who is the person with the problem reaching for journeys as a tool? And
So
is it shifting?
It sits within operations. I think the CFO, like, let's imagine a nice future where everything is journey centric, and the CFO can literally get all the data she needs for her gross margin from the customer experience. Like, fantastic. I think we'll get there. But what is happening right now is that where in the company do cross-functional alignment issues occur most? And that is not in marketing, because it's typically a silo. It's not in sales. It's typically a silo. It's not in engineering. It's typically a silo. So it happens in operations, because in operations, to address gross margin, there's usually like bigger transformational projects going on, connecting different data sources, understanding different pieces of the market. They employ transformation people, they employ strategic people, they typically own the service side of the business. So if they have call centers, that happens to roll up to operations, and tying that all together around the needs of the customer is their responsibility. So what we are seeing is that CX, which is also sometimes a silo in organizations, right? And customer experience or experience design, research, that all sits in that silo. Like, different businesses have different setups, but let's generalize a little bit. They are then asked by the operations people, all the way from the COO, to help, because the customer experience or insights or service design teams, they already have the knowledge. They look holistically about at the business to understand the nuances, and they appreciate the practices of journey mapping, service design, blueprinting, design thinking. These kind of capabilities are already developed here. Plus, they have insights from all these different sources that they manage. So employing these practices to solve the cross-functional problems that the COO's office typically needs to solve is where we are seeing now a huge interest in practices like journey management to solve them, more so than it is in finance or sales, because they are typically verticals with their own needs.
And again, is that shifting? And was that the same 5 years ago, 2 years ago?
Yes, it is shifting. Well, it is, the priorities are shifting, right? The impact of customer experience can be larger than just a single project. So it's taken out of the silo of design, out of the silo of CX, and actually made into a company-wide. I'll give an example.
Mm-hmm.
So transformation office, large Fortune 20 business, they are actually building what they are called the journey tech stack, where all of their data is flowing into a customer journey model. So they have horizontal understanding across their different teams. Now, that doesn't mean that the marketing team is working with their journeys, because they have like an end touch point based journey orchestration type of relationship with their customer. What email is Mark getting? What message are we sending Mark when he has a bad coffee experience, right? If you're a Starbucks, I'm not saying this company was Starbucks, but they are facing the end customer with specific touch points. But having their data and understanding what is going on in that horizontal alignment layer that the operations team is building will provide many insights into, hey, why customers churn at the end of their life, which is typically a different team that handles that. So using those kind of capabilities where the journey becomes the horizontal collaboration layer or connection layer between those teams typically starts from that office. And that is a big shift that we do see, where they employ these design type practices to solve business problems.
Yeah, and to be honest, I haven't been exposed to many COOs, but I can imagine their problems are far more interesting than the problems of a customer experience team or any siloed team. Any one within an organization who owns a cross-functional challenge, those will be interesting people to talk to.
Yeah. Well, technically, everyone has cross-functional challenges, right? Marketing wants to be connected with sales, and they need to have a great connection with customer success, because otherwise the customer experience breaks. However, that COO's office, they are seeing the whole and are at the right level to understand a reasonable dose of pragmatism that is focused on the business and not necessarily on one slice of the silo. So I think that is an essential difference.
What is their key metric? What are they? How do you sell journey management to them? What are they buying?
Oh yeah, it totally depends on what the business
Sure.
business challenge is. If your transformation need is we're building a journey tech stack and we need to have absolute clarity on how the data flows through all the journeys and have that model, that's a different need than, oh, my call center cost is rising. I need to understand how to actually reduce that, right? One option I have is like put them in countries where it's cheaper. The other option is look at the customer experience where we can reduce friction so that we just have less calls, right? And those will be then specific business problems that the CEO's office owns for an entire business unit or for the whole company that can then be solved with this practice.
Let's geek out a little bit more on this. So I remember you and I went through some exercises where we tried to and are applying journey-led, journey-centric way of working within the service design show and the circle. And I remember one of the first questions you asked me, or assignments that you gave me, my homework, was to think about how does this fit into the decision-making structure. And I was like, what do you mean? And I don't understand. But now where we're, 9 months in, 12 months into actually starting to apply this, I absolutely understand what you mean. Because if what you're doing around journey management isn't feeding back into prioritization, making strategy, making decisions like based on a quarterly basis, based on a yearly basis, like it doesn't have as much value as it is. So in my case, like right now, we're mapping this journey, and we're like, okay, starting 2025, our quarterly priorities will have to flow out of the things that we've mapped. And every quarter, we're going to look at that and sort of realign our priorities. And then sort of it becomes a flywheel, right? So where I want to go to with this is, it's great that we see a COO starting to take interest in this because she sees how this could add value. Do you also see that it's becoming embedded in decision-making processes?
Yeah, if it doesn't do that, you're dead. If you don't have journey, if you don't have customer-centric prioritization rituals, you're dead. Because we have a lot of solution initiative rituals, when to prioritize, how to weigh them, how to rank them, what to fund for the next quarter, what for the next year. But the best companies, they have exactly what you're saying. They have prioritization rituals based on what the customer experience is telling them, what the customer needs. And that is a different thing than understanding what to do about it. So understanding what is the priority of, like, oh, our customers have these and these issues, or these and these mega frustrations in all of these journeys. Well, we can still decide not to do something about it because there's something else in a different part of the experience more important. But this is the key to solving that having different alignment rituals around the customer experience.
What's one of the most effective alignment rituals that you've seen?
So it's very simple. It's a meeting across function where different leaders from those functions come together to look at opportunities from their journeys. That is actually what our customers are using TheyDo for, is they understand from all these different journeys, opportunities bubble up. Some are more important than others. We have to have a consistent way of comparing them. So they rank them, they score them, but they come together and then agree on these are the most important ones. Some do it quarterly, some do it monthly. Depends on the rituals and the company and the size of the different cross-functional teams and how they are related. But it helps them to do this. So that is the way effective prioritization happens, because then you can go back to your own teams and say, hey, look, here's the set of opportunities that map onto our business goals. What are we going to do about it next quarter? And then you go into problem-solving mode, but not before that.
It becomes so much easier when you start with this question, like, what are the top 3 initiatives for the next quarter that we know are going to impact the customer experience or the employee experience, and that we know will impact our bottom line, right?
Yeah, and the key is they're based on something real and not on some team having a roadmap and having their priorities and going like, oh, what are the OKRs? So let's make sure that the KRs, the key results, are linked to the things that we wanted to do anyway, and then we're good, right? No, it's based on reality. What are customers asking us to do? Where is the friction? Where is the pain? Where is the problems in the experience? And how do we feel about the priorities?
Super. Yeah, I'm seeing this in practice, but I have to say, even me, like being in this industry for almost 20 years, it was a game changer knowing about this and actually putting it into practice. So, right, I started out by mapping the journey. I started out by identifying KPIs and putting measures in place. And then you were like, okay, but where is this leading to? And it needs to lead to actually making decisions based on this. So we flipped the process and said, every 3 months, again, every year, we're going to make this. We're going to make our strategy based on something, and that something is coming out of the journeys.
Yes. And that's really cool, because you are leading the pack. You are making it a priority. You're establishing the rhythm of your company, the rhythm of your way of working, and how this is designed. So I love those companies that are doing this, right? Because we're the fabric of the organization. We're helping them to really prioritize well. What we did in the early days is like, oh, do you want to buy TheyDo? We have a beautiful idea. We innovated everything on service design and journey mapping to make actually something that scales. Want to buy it? And they said yes. And we have people that are perfectly fine with having a system of record, and that's it. Which is, to me, the most crazy thing to have is like, yeah, okay, you need that like baseline understanding of your customers, but you need to use it, right? Otherwise, it's just like we're filing everything in the right place, and then what? So there are still people doing that and are happy with that, but they are not creating any impact. And I think that's a sometimes a problem in our field at large. Is like we create understanding and insight and are able to share with everyone why it matters, but then nothing happens, and
Mhm.
it's like it's the biggest waste of time.
Where do you see which types of people, organizations are seeing the biggest impact from their efforts? Is there a pattern?
The pattern is, it's funny. One of the things we uncovered is like none of our customers have a very strict return to office policy. So there's usually distributed teams, hybrid work going on. Some of them are fully remote or have no policies in place, but none of them have a 5 day a week in the office policy. Because I don't know if you remember this, before COVID, we felt very, very well aligned with our customers. Then COVID happened. We all went to the mirror boards to keep that like kind of like customer centric alignment. But we realized we weren't really aligned what the customer needed. We were aligned as people because we chat every day, we meet our team every day, we see everyone in the office every day. So it feels like we're close and we're understanding. Now all of a sudden we're at home and we need to look at screens and pixels and words and visuals and then say, that doesn't sound complete, and that is not really right. So funny enough, the need for better understanding was propelled by COVID, is my impression, because the fake, well, not fake, but
Assumption based?
yeah, we had more assumptions than that we actually had facts on, like, are we really aligned on what our customers need and what they want? And that was exposed by COVID. So today, that is one of the things I'm seeing. Is it's not something we qualify companies on, but it was fun to see. But the most striking differences are patterns across them are, one, they have different products and services. If you have one product and it is digital, it's pretty easy to manage that. Even if you're like 400-person company, like it's pretty easy to manage that with a bunch of, loosely coupled processes and everything. But if you scale and you have multiple products, multiple brands, multiple services, different geos that you're working with, like it's really hard to find one thing that everyone can agree on beyond the customer journey. And those companies have big alignment issues. And I'm not saying we solve all of it by just putting some better software in place, but we're doing a hell of a good job by bringing that together. So those companies have that, and the larger those companies get, the more complicated decision making gets, the most complicated the rituals get, and there's usually a need to consolidate that, bring that back to something many more teams can participate in, and that is where we see the commonalities between them. They're typically large companies, Fortune 500 type of businesses. Again, like a 20-person agency or a 50-person startup, everything changes all the time, and you don't need sophisticated, scalable tools to do this work. You can still benefit from the journey-centric approach. I mean, we made mapping free for them, but you don't need capabilities to handle thousands of insights a day.
One of the, and by the way, this is the realm where I think CX governance becomes really interesting, and plays like software is going to be a piece of the puzzle, but all the other things around structures, rituals, processes, roles, responsibilities, all that other stuff is equally as important. But I want to tap into something else, Jochem. I get the opportunity to speak to a lot of people working in house, and one of the challenges that I see is that it's still for a lot of people really hard to make the leap from either one person being interested in journeys to maybe a team being interested in this, to actually making this something that goes beyond a team, beyond a department, and eventually into the whole organization. Have you, again, I'm curious about patterns. Have you seen patterns of people, teams who are able to make that jump from small scale to mid scale to large scale adoption?
Yes, I have. So some patterns would be, everything starts small, which I always love, right? It starts with one team that is having this need to understand the customer experience better. But this is already happening, right? This is not just because of us. But typically, like in large companies that put an emphasis on customer-centric work or put an emphasis on the customer experience, it starts somewhere. Where it starts to take off is not necessarily in evangelizing the methodology. Because service designers, I mean, I'm also a designer. I mean, I love to help people with better methods, better processes, better frameworks. It's great. But usually that's not what the business needs. And the business, with business, I mean everyone who's not in a design role, but works in the company. I mean, you have engineering and you have product, but I mean, really like the business analysts, the strategists, the GMs, people managing different departments, having specific KPIs, having specific budgets, having specific needs for that business. And that's how they operate. That's how the business operates. But as a service design team, you can employ your practices to help them improve their numbers, improve their KPIs by working in this way. And I think that is the big unlock, is by letting go of like, oh, everyone needs to appreciate the service design process. We're going to do a ton of workshops and we're going to bring everyone into the fold. It's like, no, that's your job. You need to face the complexity. What you are bringing is clarity. What you are bringing is insight. What you are bringing is a specific opportunity to help your business leader to create that impact. And I think letting go of like, oh, everyone needs to be participating in this design thinking, service design rituals, and it's fantastic. Like, yes, but not everyone needs to.
So what do you do instead?
So you do the practices. You are responsible for making sure that service design is practiced. But the result is connecting what you find, what you understand, what you uncover to your business leaders that have different specific problems that they want to solve, that for the quarter is important, whether it's cutting your cost or making sure we can do more with less, or reducing our time to market, or finding a specific solution for a big pesky problem in the process that we identified. You know it's better to understand it from the customer lens. So help them see what you see, but it doesn't mean that you have to accept them entirely into your world of service design. You can help them by showing how you can solve their problems and how you can be a partner to them. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, fantastic. Mark, please, can you do the next project? And I have some more things that I want to work with you. Oh, you need some more people in your team? Yeah, let me get some budget for that. Great. Oh, now we're growing. And that is, I think, the step. And of course, executive support helps as well. There are, in a lot of organizations, people who are already aware of all of this. They are supportive of all of this. They want you to do this and they want to fund this, but also they have budget constraints and they need to fund what works, and they can't fund things that take a lot of time and produce maybe results. You have to be crystal clear on how you can be helpful to them to get their support. And I think that is the other part. Like, there are executives in your company that really want to do this, that believe in design, that believe in customer centricity. And it's your job to give them a reason to actually fund these things, rather than to just be, oh, we're doing research and we're helping a ton of insights to be uncovered.
Which reason do we give?
That is specific. The reason is, okay, let me show you how I can be helpful. Let me show you how we do this. Let me show you how I can bring unique insights to you that you wouldn't uncover anywhere else. But what I need from you is specific business problems to solve. And not let me, in our service design corner, do fantastic work on as is and to be journeys and help the business see the future. And then everyone goes, hallelujah, this is great. And then goes back to their own corner and ignore everything you've done.
It's the chicken and egg problem here. I think a lot of service design professionals absolutely want to work on interesting business challenges. It's finding those people and having those conversations and having the confidence to have those conversations, having the credibility to be able to have these conversations. I'm happy to hear that it's happening more and more. One thing I was wondering, so if you look towards the future, what's maybe a big roadblock or domino block that you see that if we would be able to knock it over, it would create a very positive ripple effect throughout the entire industry?
I think this is what relates to what I just shared. Service design practitioners at large are very proud of the process they are running and then the result it brings for the customer, right? If you look at all the case studies you can find online on service design, you will see a lot of this. Here's how we run the research, and here's how we worked with customers and interviewed them, and here's the insight that led us to make this like fantastic change or innovation. But they forgot that they are doing that in the context of the business or in the context of a service organization or an NGO or a government body. And what was the impact that your work had on that organization? What was the benefit of doing that? And we're shying away from it because what I'm seeing a lot is that we're so invested in our customers that it's almost a dirty word to talk about money, to talk about the business benefits of solving problems for our customers. Well, that is actually the point, right? You signed up for working at IKEA, at McDonald's, at wherever you're working. Well, you're working for the business. The business is there to make money, to give a shareholder profit. So your job is to align that with what the customer needs to make everyone happy. But instead, we're working only on showing what we did for the customer, which is great. And it produces a ton of lovely case studies and materials. But I think shying away from what the business benefit was in dollars, in cost savings, or why we did it in the first place, that was starting from a business need, not from a customer need, is totally fine. And that will get some eyeballs because ultimately you work for a commercial business that needs to do this. And we as a whole field need to be better at linking our work to those positive business outcomes and not shy away from talking about revenue uptake or cutting costs or doing more with less or reducing the time to value. And all of that, it matters, but we're doing too little of it today to make impact. So if we remove that roadblock and people are actively sharing more on the business impact of service design, I think it will be a lot easier for our field. Because if the market goes down, what are the first thing that gets scrapped today? The things that are not directly related to revenue, customer experience functions, design functions, like and gone. Because businesses believe that what they're doing is already working. It's already good. And design and experience is just making that better. But that's not the reality. Or actually, because of us, it's working.
And you have to show it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You have to show it.
You have to show it. You have to find a way to show it. And you have to not shy away from the money conversations, because ultimately, businesses are commercially driven, and impacting the revenue or the cost are the best ways that we can get service design on the map.
So when we listen to this episode in a year time, it's January 2026. What do you hope has happened?
Well, I hope this has happened, right? I'm excited to see design at large is actually impacting the business in a positive way, and we as a community are getting recognition for it. We still need to do a ton of hard work to get it there, but what I would hope is that having a journey model in your company that allows you to quickly work with different teams, get alignment, get decisions done faster is, 10 times more normal than it is today.
Let's see if that prediction comes out. And I would encourage everybody listening, drop a comment if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify. I think nowadays you can also leave a comment. So give us your predictions to Journey Management 2025. Cool, Jochem. So let's now transition into talking about a few more things about the future. I know that you're starting a podcast as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes.
Or maybe it's already started, depending on when the first episode comes out.
I guess it will. Yeah, people can find it. We'll put links in the show notes, I'm sure. What I'm trying to do is shine a light on people and their teams who have an edge on experience. So literally have an edge on building something truly unique for their customers, or internal processes that benefit the customer, or having an edge on practicing customer experience at large to generate business impact, to do something completely new or differentiated, but I want to bring that specific perspective to the world because I'm meeting a ton of great people and their teams are doing such amazing work that is not visible to the world. And I think that needs a place to actually be talked about and understood so that others can learn from it, connect with the people that I'm interviewing, and make sure that we are putting them on the spotlight or in the spotlight to share what they know. And some will be working in businesses where they can't share specific details, but still hearing them talk about how they work, what they're achieving, how they're thinking about it, why they even are caring about having an edge on experience is something truly unique from them, which I hope to bring to the world. So that's why I started it.
Nice. Looking forward to the episodes. This is going to be interesting. Different names probably than I've seen on the service design show. So that's always good. Jochem, now we're going to do some post-editing magic. We're going to talk about a conference that hasn't yet happened, which we don't know too much about, but in the final podcast episode, we'll know everything. All right, a conference. Sounds intriguing, mysterious, and most of all, exciting. What can you already share about what's coming up, and what are some of the things that still need to be resolved throughout 2025?
Well, we resolve a few things as we are planning, but I think the exciting bit is that we are going to introduce a global conference for journey management, and we call that Beyond the Map. The working title comes from, and this is a funny story, comes from something that we had internally. Like the first real TheyDo event where we brought the company together was called Off the Map, pun intended. We're like, yeah, it's not really what we're doing, right? It's like getting people beyond the map. So we're spinning up an event for practitioners, for executives that all care about having journeys in their decision making, but also getting that customer-centric point of view from design linked to actually business execution. And that's the goal, really, to bring everyone from around the world. We got customers literally all over the map, to get them in one place to together go beyond the map. And this will happen after summer break. In Europe, there's summer break. In the US, not so much. There's just summer. But it will happen after summer break. And the cool thing is that we don't want to be so full that company doing yet another big promotion and thinking about sending a message like, we of TheyDo advise TheyDo and TheyDo is great, but to really bring people together. So to lead up to this conference, we're going to spin up a few global but local initiatives, meeting our customers where they are, bringing people together. So in the next quarters, we'll host events in Europe and US to bring practitioners and executives together leading up to the bigger Beyond the Map event.
You already mentioned something about this, but is this for service design professionals? Is for who do you hope will attend?
So I'll give you a little spoiler. No one knows this yet, but we made an exclusive agreement with the Service Design Days. So many of your listeners will know what that is. It's a big conference, usually happens in Barcelona. And Inge and TheyDo are going to put their hands together because, yes, service designers, customer experience practitioners, they are all going to be part of this. And there is a big track for them. But the whole point of us trying to do what we call journey management is to link their work back to business impact and to marry those two worlds. So this is half of it. And the other half of it is bringing the business part of the world together. So this will be a truly one-of-a-kind thing. But the cool thing is, yes, this will be for service designers. This will be for CX practitioners. And we are joining forces with the Service Design Days to make this a big one for everyone who is in service design.
And for those who are listening and curious about Inge Keizer, she founded the Service Design Days years ago. So we met Inge in Barcelona when we were there.
I think it was actually because of you that we met her, right? Because we happened to
Yeah.
be doing an event in Barcelona where you facilitated the first ever service design day pub quiz, or service design pub quiz, sorry. And
Yeah.
then Inge and a few of her community members joined. I think that was so it's all about because of you, Mark.
Serendipitous connections happening all over the place. Cool. So, do we already know? Like, is the event going to be in Australia? Is it going to be in Europe, US? Can you already say something about that?
Yes, it will be in Europe, respecting our roots. So we decided on Europe. Where it's going to be, if you are curious, you will be going to theydo.com/beyond the map, where we're going to start revealing all the details as we go. So if you want to stay tuned, you can find that there. I will say it's in Europe, but I will not spill the beans where, but expect it to be a true venue where both of these perspectives can come together. And it's not going to be this boring, we're in a conference conference hall environment with filter coffee that no one really likes and pastries that taste like S. So that's not going to be our MO for this one.
Nice. I'm sure we will be sharing a lot more details about the conference as they start to trickle throughout the year through our partnership. I'm sure we will have some interesting perks for the Service Design Show listeners. I don't know, maybe call for speakers. I don't know what we're going to do. I'm sure interesting things will emerge. I'm really excited, Jochem. I'm surprised that you're hosting this next to running a small scale up and that you somehow find the time to also host an event.
Yes, well, the hosting is the easy part, right? Spinning it up, coordinating it, setting it in motion, and making sure it's going to be fantastic. Like, that's my team, right? That's just not me. I'm just going to be hosting there and creating the program with them, but we have a phenomenal team that's going to pull this off. So all kudos go to them. But of course, like, I will let the audience be the judge of that.
All right. All the details, at least the ones that are available, theydo.com/beyond the map. Check out the show notes for that link and keep listening to the Service Design Show as we reveal more details. And that was a very interesting exploration of the conference that's coming up. So I'm excited to hear more about this. Jochem, we're heading towards the end of this conversation. What's the one thing that you're looking forward to the most in 2025?
If you would be able to answer the question, why is this data the way it is? Let's say your CFO sits there in his cockpit and has the question about gross margin. Well, that's not a good example. Let's do the CEO. She sits there and doesn't know why the data is the way it is. You could ask just why. And there it is. It's the answer. It's the place in the customer experience where we actually understand why things are not the way they're supposed to be, what customers are impacted, what is the frustration or the pain that they're actually experiencing, what are we doing about it, and giving also some peace of mind. There is already a ton that we have been doing about it, changes in the process, launching new features, a campaign that's coming on. Like, I want to actually make that a reality. And I think this will be the year that we can actually do it. So by the end of this year, this should be a reality for most teams when they have these kind of capabilities at their disposal. So it's a long-winded answer to say, like, I'm super excited to work on some of these features around answering why almost instantly when all your data is flowing through one journey model.
So we've talked about this, and I'm curious, will this be a chat interface where you ask this question and the chat sort of leverages the journey and the data in the journey to pinpoint you to those things? What do you think?
So it's easy to think about a chat interface as the way we interact with all the AI models today, and it will give you results. So I still think like inputting some text query question or with your voice, sending that will be part of this. But why would you prompt it if we already know and we can understand what Mark needs and send it to you before you even need you know you need it? Like, we should be able to be upfront, and then you can interrogate your data and dig in and click through, and that might be a chat interface. But we're just scratching the surface of what is possible using large language models, and I think chat is a very natural interface to work with these applications. But I see it more as there's going to be a ton of workers working for you when you sleep that are doing all these interesting things in the background, which are like basically like AI technology agents doing things for you. And then when you need it, you'll have the right information. Does it have to be chat? Don't know. Do you need to set it up using chat? Could be. But like, I think chat is something for today, and it's still going to be relevant for a bit. But it's like this temporary interaction pattern that we seem to like to interact with our AI. So it will be there, but I have no high hopes that it will be there forever.
All right, we'll see how this evolves. Last question before we leave, Jochem. We've introduced this a while ago, and I actually really like this. We want to leave these conversations with better questions than we started with. So what's a question you feel would be interesting for us to ponder on after this episode?
What would not be possible if you have all your customer insights in one place? What would not be even possible? And this is a service design question. So you have all the insights that you could possibly gather. You have all the data you could possibly gather from your customers. What would still be missing?
And that's what we're going to think about. Jochem, it was a pleasure. I'm looking forward to all the stuff that we're going to do this year and to revisit this episode again in a year time. I think this could be a very interesting tradition born. So thanks again for coming up, and looking forward to following your journey.
Nice. Happy New Year, Mark. See you next year then.
Jochem's insights into how journey management has changed over the past few years really got me thinking. It is clear that this field is constantly evolving, and we need to stay ahead of the curve. I am especially interested in exploring how AI will shape the future of journey management. It's a topic I'm sure we'll definitely be revisiting on the show. So big thanks to Jochem again for sharing his wisdom with us here on the show. If you have enjoyed today's conversation, as always, you can do me a big favor. Click the like button on this video and leave a short comment if you haven't done so already. Not to feed the YouTube algorithm, but rather to let me know whether or not we are on the right track by addressing topics like journey management. Finally, before we part ways, please take a moment to reflect and most of all, celebrate that by joining us today, you have directed your attention towards learning and growing as a professional. So from everyone who you are going to impact through your work, thank you for taking the time and making the commitment. My name is Mark Fontijn, and I look forward to having you with us again for a new conversation on the Service Design Show. Take care. Happy 2025 and see you soon.